Yeah, I think there's few CAs. Not that I have statistics, but from my observation, because I think the few CAs who are specializing in tax.
So, um, you are now in tax. Obviously, you ran away from auditing. You know, um, you know, how would you say to someone, like, in terms of choosing a discipline to go into? Like, I know there is tax, there is financial accounting, there is auditing and stuff like that. How do you go about choosing which one is good for you? Do you look into the future of that, and how does that look in industry, or you just be like, okay, I'm taking this because I love this? How did you go about it?
Um, Personally, for me, I was funded by revenue services, so it was like a work back obligation. Then, but on top of that, I think tax for me it was um, one of those subjects that I passed very well. I think it was the highest throughout the years, yeah, from second year until fourth year, right? So um, that's the first part from me. Then, but when it comes to choosing, I think for me, I think our career allows for flexibility. Remember, you have like four modules, which are separately careers on themselves. So throughout the third year and fourth year, you must be able to at least identify which area is your interest. At least for myself, I was able to see that auditing at the time it was not for me. Um, Even though when I was doing the articles in audit firm, I realized that actually this is good. But so there's a two-way of it. Sometimes you may choose something based on what you experience on during your university years, or you find that in real life or um, in the workplace is actually a good career. So, but I think at least the first basis is more of choosing what you're good at. Yeah, because there's always be that one which you're good at, and there'll always be that one. I'll talk in my instance that show you flames. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. You're a senior corporate tax consultant in one of the big four. And since we're talking about tax, you actually want to do a Master of Commerce in tax. So it just shows what, hey, yeah, no, you love tax, man.
Yeah, man. I think I love text, man. I think I've been fortunate to be on both sides of text, meaning being from the SARS side of things, where everything falls in, it's like the ocean, and being from the preparer side of things, being one of the big fours. So, yeah, I was able to get exposure on the end to end of taxation. You see, um, yeah.
So, as a senior corporate tax consultant, you are involved with clients from mining, private equity, agriculture, automobile, security. It seems like it's very nice to be a consultant because it seems like it gives you like exposure to different industries.
And that's true. I won't lie. Being a consultant is a good thing, man. It's a it's a great opportunity because of, as I said, um, tax. No, being in one of the big fours, I was able to see tax differently. You know that um, tax um, is one of those subjects where it applies in most, if not all, the business transactions, right? So there's a business transaction that happens. That business transaction has got a tax impact. You see, so that will mean that in all the business transactions that are happening currently, in one way or the other, tax find a way to squeeze itself in somewhere else. You see, so being a tax consultant, it means being a tax consultant means that you got to understand how businesses operate. You know, um, then because of you cannot give an advice if you don't understand what the client or the business is trying to achieve with the certain transaction. You see, and one of the tax legislation, I think, is called General Anti-Avoidance provisions of the Tax Act. For every transaction, there have to be a commercial um, reasons for it to occur. So from that point, you can see that tax on itself, um, it dwells much on what business transactions have happened or ought to happen. You see, so I think being a tax consultant gives you that opportunity because of you. And the other good thing, you got to work with different seniors above you, all right? Because of remember, as you grow in your career, you have areas which you tend to specialize in. You know, there are seniors that are so good in private equities. You know, but as a tax consultant, because of you are at the base, you work with everyone, right? So you've got to get an experience and say, okay, I think private equity is my thing. I think mining is my thing. You know, so it gives you that at least advantage of not just dwell into specializing in your initial days of career, but having a taste of all these different industries. Yeah.
And then, you say that you have proven experience in interpretation and application of Income Tax Act, STT Act, Mineral Royalties Act, and Tax Administration Act. Is that what it entails to be a senior corporate tax consultant? What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Amen. I think I'll talk in my context on the work that I do, right? Because of different test consult. As I told you, tax is broad, so different test consultants do different stuff, right? So myself, I'm a test consultant working in advisory, meaning tax advisory, right? So what does that mean? It means we advise people. We advise companies, since I'm dealing with corporates. So corporates, they'll come to your firm and say, we are planning to do one, two, three. May you please assist us on the tax implications or alternatives of doing such a transaction, right? So what it means, first thing, you have to understand the issue at hand. You have to understand the entity and understand what this transaction they're trying to achieve, and bear that in mind. In being able, this now dwells back to what I told you about triggers. You know, now it catch up with you. You say, okay, this is what's happening. What does this thing trigger, right? Let's say, for example, a client will come and say, I need to restructure my loans, right? I need to restructure my loans. What's the best way of doing it, right? The moment you study during your text and there's a section that talks about debt waivers and stuff, you remember now that the moment you say I need to restructure my loans, that should trigger in your mind. I need to look at the legislation towards debt waivers. You get it? You see how it now it matches. In university, you'll have read this is what debt waiver is, this is what the legislation is, this is what the tax implications are, right? But now, um, the application side of it then comes in. Then from there you do an opinion, say, okay, this is the opinion, this is what our view is, and this from what you already told us, these are the risks. If you do this, this is going to be implications. If you do this, these are going to be an implications. Then your clients will, having all those options, will be able to know what's the best way of restructuring their loans. So in order to do that as a tax consultant, first you have to understand, as I say, understand the entity, then and do research on that subject matter, like go through the legislation, go through all your explanatory memorandums. If there's a case law that is being concluded as a precedent to that certain matter, have all this information. Then at the end of the day, draft a document that the client will be able to understand and be in a position that they are they will be if they have not or after they have obtained the opinion from you.
So it means that you need to be in tune with this legislations, as you say, because I know that. Do you guys use IFRS? Because I know that there is this accounting standards, but I hear you talking a lot about legislations. Legislations, is that what works with you guys in tax?
Yeah. Okay. The legislation that I'm referring to is the Income Tax Act. So those are the laws that are being enacted or being put in place by the National Treasury. It's just a whole of process on how the law came into application, right? But that's the law that governs how taxes need to be that need to be administered in South Africa. One of it is the Income Tax Act, which is the core tax act that we are working on. But depending on what you are dealing with, for example, if you are dealing with transfer of shares, then you'll deal with your specifically your STT. Or if you are dealing with your mineral royalties, you'll deal. So there's a specific act for a certain transaction. Yeah, the law actually. Let's just say the law.
Yes, I see. So let's say to people who want to qualify as chartered accountants and follow into taxation and stuff, what can you say to them? In terms of advice and into this career journey.
Yeah, I think I think there's few CAs, not that I have statistics, but from my observation, because I think the few CAs who are specializing in tax, as I said, I don't have stats, but I think from observations, one because of the training offices that specifically does tax, right? I only at my time I only knew that SARS was the only place where you can do tax as your elective, right? But I think one of the big fours, they are also introducing CAs practicing in tax, right? So if you want to do tax as like a CA majoring in tax, I think you there's two way of doing it. One, you can do articles at those um, entities like yourselves and one of those big fours who specializes in tax. Two, because of the nature of our career program, how it's structured, it's easy for you to transition from one area to the other. You see, so you find that there is a tax consultant position open somewhere. One of the requirements they can say we are looking for a CA, right? Then you can take a chance and apply and start from there at the tax consultant level. Yeah.
Um, Let us close with this. Okay, before that, I think there was someone who asked a question as to do you guys have maths graduates in the accounting profession? I think the question was, have you met maths graduates in accounting spaces? I think this person is doing maths. Maybe they want to transition into accounting. Have you?
I haven't directly because of how, as I said, the structure of becoming a CA. Remember, you have to have a bachelor's degree in accounting science, have CTA and stuff, right? So, so it's less directly for one to find someone who did something different, right? But I know a friend of mine who is not a CA, but at least he works in accounting but did maths. But what they do, they work as they call them I think data analysis analyst, but they'll deal with data related to auditing, right? So they'll get the reports from the client, like your trial balances and stuff. Then they'll do uh, data analytics from those data that is being given from the client. But I can't elaborate more because it's just one of those instances.
One of the questions that I wanted to ask you was, as a consultant, man, working in this diversified industries, mining, private equity, agriculture, automobile security and stuff. What was one of your interesting, projects that you got to work in that was just so amazing for you that you're like, wow, we did that. This was something amazing for you. Just out of curiosity, from my side.
Yeah, man. I think for me, um, it was one in mining, right? So it was one in mining. Yeah, because the mining legislation is completely different. So in tax, there is a general provisions, meaning they apply to everyone, right? Every entity, they're general. Then there are those specific provisions in the Tax Act that applies to mining companies or insurance companies and stuff, right? So for me, it was the mining one because of that was the first time working on a mining client and first time noticing that actually the Tax Act has got specific mining provisions. You see, so and then on top of that, the exciting thing was having got to understand how the mines work. You know, um, how like even the language that is being used in the mining, like you run on mine, you're like, geez, who's running on mine? You see, all I want to say is just that soil that is being extracted from the, the, the earth, So having to understand different cost elements that are there in mining, like your coal rationing, meaning that this is where the coal is being washed, man. It was exciting. Yeah, for me, it was that one. That was the exciting part of it.
Wow. Wow. I mean, who knew? I'm sure when you were still studying, you never thought that you'd be acquainting yourself with terminologies from mining and understanding mining even.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was. I think it was a good
Yeah,
exposure, man.
it's quite,
Yeah.
yeah. Let us close with this. Let us close with this. Um, this should be the interesting part. This should be the interesting part. Students, they go through a lot studying accounting. You see them carrying those big books and stuff like that. Um, the life after qualifying for a CA, it's nice, right?
Um, I think, man, there's no such a great thing like having to no longer study for auditing. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But yeah, it's actually great, man. Because you got roasted with these technical concepts, and then after you passed your second board exam, that's when you're like, jeez, at least I'm no longer going to have to study other subjects other than the one that I'm dealing with. I think that's the relief from that side. Then the other good thing is, um, being a CA, how we are trained. Is got that reputation, so a good reputation, especially from the ethical side of things, in a way that when you do the work, it's already burned into you that whatever you do, it has to be for the public interest, you know. So, and then the other good thing is it's always nice when, let's say, you have given advice for someone and you see your advice being implemented in real life, and in as you pass, let's say you pass that company while you are driving to work, and like, yeah, I was involved there. I mean, those are the great reflections for me.
Yeah. And obviously the money's good. I mean, CA, man, come on. I mean, you guys are there, you know.
a, a friend of mine used to say, man, there's no such thing as money is good. I think they say something is relative. I don't know what does that mean, but in simple terms, I think they just say it depends. Yeah, it depends. Yeah, it depends. What is good for me may not be good for you. So yeah.
Look, it was great to have you here. And thank you so much for giving us your time and also sharing your journey and everything relating to the accounting profession or the CA profession. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ben. I think it was a privilege to be invited to your platform. It's
No, the
always
privilege is
been.
mine. I
No,
mean,
don't
come
take my
on.
privilege.
No. Let me tell you this. I mean, you know, when I was inviting you, I was thinking that there's going to be a point where now I have to go through a PA, you know. So I'm using this privilege that I have now.
Yeah, I hear you. I receive in advance, man.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, but thank you, man. It's always great being, most of the time we are the audience in such platforms, and it's always great when now you are on the other side where at least you can give input there and there. And yeah, I always be grateful for the opportunity, Mr. Ben.
Thank you so much. Danko.
Cheers, man.